The dusty afternoon sun beat down on the small rural town as crowds gathered at the old wooden stage where the annual auction was taking place. But unlike cattle, horses, or land deeds, this auction carried a crueler weight. It was a place where the broken, the desperate, and the discarded were paraded before strangers to be claimed like objects. Whispers spread through the crowd when a frail young girl with downcast eyes was brought forward, her clothes worn thin, her face pale, and her spirit seemingly extinguished. She was no more than 16, Chinese by origin, and her silence told of suffering far too deep for words. The auctioneer called for bids, his voice booming and uncaring, but the crowd was hesitant. To most, she was worth nothing, too small to work the fields, too foreign to belong, too fragile to survive. A few cruel laughs rose when someone mocked her as being worth less than a chicken. The air was thick with indifference, until one man, standing quietly at the back, lifted his hand. He was a rancher, weathered by years of sun and labor, his clothes simple but his gaze steady. $3, he said calmly, as though he saw something no one else could. The crowd roared with laughter at the absurdity, mocking both the man and the girl. But the auctioneer slammed down his gavel. Sold. For just $3, the girl was handed over like a possession. The crowd dispersed, muttering about wasted money, but the man said nothing. He walked toward her slowly, and for the first time she raised her eyes. Behind the layers of fear and exhaustion, he saw the faint flicker of life, a spark of hope not yet extinguished. Without a word, he extended his hand. She hesitated, trembling, uncertain if this was just another form of cruelty waiting to unfold. But something in his expression was different. He did not look at her as an object. He did not look at her as a burden. He looked at her as if she mattered. And so, with cautious steps, she followed him out of the marketplace. The road stretched long, leading to his ranch at the edge of the town, where fields rolled wide and the horizon opened free. For the first time in years, the girl felt the air without the chains of an overseer's command. Yet confusion gnawed at her heart. What would this man demand of her in return? She had been bought before, used, abandoned, and forgotten. But something told her this story might not unfold the way she expected. As the sun dipped low and the ranch came into view, she braced herself for another chapter of suffering, but deep within, a question began to whisper. Could $3 really buy her freedom? The girl's first night at the ranch was restless, her mind haunted by every cruelty she had endured before. She sat on the edge of a small wooden bed the man had given her, staring at the blanket folded neatly at the foot, wondering why he had not locked the door or demanded anything from her. Morning came with the call of birds, and she tiptoed outside, expecting to be ordered into the fields. Instead, she found the man already working, his hands in the soil, his voice calm as he greeted her not as property, but as a guest. "You're free here," he said simply, noticing her confusion. "What you choose to do with your life is your own." She could hardly believe his words. Free? She had been bought. Ownership was all she had ever known. Yet each day that followed proved his intentions true. He showed her the ranch, the stables, the open fields where the cattle roamed. He asked nothing of her, but encouraged her to learn, to walk, to breathe as though life itself belonged to her again. Slowly the heavy shadows around her heart began to lift. The ranch became a sanctuary where the silence of her past was replaced by the sound of laughter, of simple meals shared, of a man's quiet respect for a girl who had been treated as worthless. He gave her books, taught her to read and write in a language that once felt foreign. He gave her space to paint, to dream, to find herself again. And when the townsfolk mocked him for spending even $3 on someone useless, he only replied, "No life is useless. No soul is worthless." His words planted roots in her, and in time she grew into them. Years passed, and the girl who had once stood trembling on an auction stage transformed into a confident young woman, educated, capable, and filled with compassion for others who suffered as she once had. She went on to build a home for orphans, children discarded by the world, giving them what had once been given to her, dignity, freedom, and a chance to live again. And through it all, she never forgot the day she was bought for $3, not as property, but as a person worth saving. The shocking truth was never the price paid, but the priceless gift of kindness that rewrote her future. Viewers, if this story touched you, let it be a reminder that small acts of compassion can change the world in ways we may never imagine. And if you want more inspiring stories like this, tales that make you feel, reflect, and believe again, don't forget to hit that subscribe button right now. Because sometimes the most powerful stories aren't just told, they're shared, and by subscribing, you become part of a family that believes in spreading light in a world that, too, often forgets its worth.